Hello and welcome back to the thearkofe podcast. My name is Noah.
And my name is Gavin.
And we're the Blanchard brothers back with you to finally talk some TV. Something we haven't done in quite a while. And if you're a frequent...
Telephile?
Yeah, if you're sure.
Is that a word?
It is now.
Yep.
If you are a telephile, you're probably struggling right now.
Yeah.
I feel like, not that I've ever, wanted to be a TV critic, but if there's ever a time to, not want to be somebody who's responsible for watching, everything.
Yeah.
Because, my God.
Yeah, there's a lot of shit
I
out
think
there.
this is the most shows I've been following at one time, maybe ever.
Yes.
And arguably some of the highest quality programming of the last, 10 years, in some cases. There's a lot of good stuff out there right now.
Which could be said if we got some of these, the old Netflix model of just let me have them all and enjoy it, you wouldn't have this problem. But essentially, I want to say maybe with The Boys, it probably started before there. But there is the trend of well, no, I'll give you some, then I'll give you a little more. And then either a little more or then
more
it's
recently,
weekly.
and I guess The Boys kind of set the tone for that, but HBO Max in particular has been very experimental with the release structure. And, okay, we'll drop 3, and then we'll do them 2 at a time.
Right.
Or maybe we'll go once a week after we drop 3. People are playing around with all sorts of different methods. We'll get into that with our individual shows. We can start wherever you want to. Okay. I guess maybe... Is there anything you have finished recently from this year?
Oh, man.
Or are you kind of in the thick of it? Because I only have 2 that I have finished that are complete, and a few that ended this week that I think I'm behind on. So, where do you want to dive in?
Severance.
You want to pick a network? Okay, Severance.
Finish that.
Thoughts?
Amazing.
This is one of the ones I'm referring to when I'm talking about one of the best pieces of television.
When are the Emmys done? They've already done this year?
I don't even pay attention to the Emmys because they're staggered in such a weird way where it's the stuff that we're watching now probably won't be recognized until a full calendar year from now.
I only ask because you obviously have Apple winning Best Picture.
Right.
Had there been a Best Picture winner that was not a major studio before this? Netflix or an Amazon?
They're indies, but no, none of the streamers had made it there. So
Apple was the first streamer.
Yes,
God,
and they beat
100%.
And let's be real right now. Their lunch is being eaten, dude.
Yeah.
They have maybe that's a good place to start. The only thing I'm watching on Netflix right now is Russian Doll season 2 because loved the first season. So, I'm back in for it. But that is the only thing I am going on to that app for right now. I'm sure there's other stuff that people are...
Well, next month you're going to have Stranger Things.
Yes, which I kind of completely forgot was it's right around the corner. This, I don't know how tail end of March, April, and now May has turned into just... I guess it's the COVID setback on some fronts and but everything is just out right now. And it feels like I'm looking for these pockets of okay, well, who's actually delving in or talking about any of these things, because it feels like there's so much that it's the idea of us trying to do oh yeah, we're going to follow this for the season and have coverage of it just felt impossible.
Which is why we're going to do what we're going to do.
Which is why we're...
Summer series. So it's just easier to be you know what?
We're just going to watch something that's been off the air.
I finished all 15 seasons of ER.
Yes,
I
you
went
did.
back and watched the entire thing solely to do this little project we're going to start in the summer. We can talk about that later.
We've been teasing it.
Yeah.
We will have a 2x2 up for you very soon that sets up much more to come this summer.
And if you're a Patreon supporter, you'll get it way sooner.
But yeah, we're retreating into the past in true thearkofe fashion. But we'll still be watching all of this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So, but yeah, that's Russian Doll season 2 is the only thing I'm watching on Netflix. Notably, they dropped it in a binge.
Yeah.
Now, we could have crushed it, but we're 2 episodes deep because I've got a billion other things that I'm trying to juggle at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it. I don't know if you watched the first season.
No.
First season, she keeps dying and repeat. It's a Groundhog Day thing.
Yeah.
And eventually spoiler alert for the first season, she breaks the loop at the end.
Oh.
But the second season gets into time travel.
Huh.
And is doing some very interesting things. And it's Natasha Lyonne. She's incredibly enjoyable. If you're a fan of her, obviously you're probably already watching the show, so it's not a huge recommend. And if you're not a fan of her, I feel like you would not enjoy the show at all. So
I'm just trying to think of like what TV show Netflix has that I've watched. Like I cared about it when it came out, and because I've been watching some Netflix.
They got rid of Mindhunter, arguably one of the best shows they've ever released.
Mm-hmm.
Most of their original films, they had The Lost Daughter and Power of the Dog last year that jumped to mind, but Windfall, which was earlier this year, kind of
I think it's a lot of like
swing and a miss for me personally.
Maybe it's just crime.
I'm not
shit.
really enjoying arguably they're so oversaturated,
right,
that it's hard to find what's actually worth watching. And in general, the overall quality seems to be, there's nothing that's risen to the level of, they haven't had a Stranger Things since Stranger Things, essentially. Right. They haven't had this is gripping here. And by virtue of it being off for so long,
mm-hmm.
I feel like people have, I'll check out Paramount Plus. There's nothing really going on over here on Netflix.
I'll catch up on all the seasons.
Yeah.
Paramount Plus, 1883, Paramount Plus. That's another one that I finished.
Okay.
There's so much. I'm trying to remember what I've seen.
As we're kind of going through, I definitely want to firmly establish Netflix is at the trailing behind all of the other services right now, in my estimation.
Yeah, I saw they lost like 100,000 subscribers.
So I hope, not that I'm like rooting for them, like, oh my God, poor Netflix, what will happen? They do have a lot of original movies that I'm excited about for the rest of the year. We're finally going to get Andrew Dominik's Blonde.
Yeah. His
NC-17 Marilyn Monroe epic biopic with Ana de Armas. Have we gotten to talk Deep Water yet?
No, we haven't.
It's been so long and there's been so much other stuff, but we're here to talk television.
Right.
Do not let me get distracted. I'm excited about some of their original films for the rest of the year, and I'm sure they'll have another like 2 or 3 that are possibly in contention for Oscars, as they always do. But again, the sheer amount of stuff is just, I don't know. It's a C. It's quite a C. Okay. Netflix firmly at the bottom of the pile for me right
Ozark.
now. Which that's what it was. I'm not an Ozark person, so.
Well, it's funny because I had to do usually this time of year they make us do training for BSA and OFAC, Bank Secrecy Act, Office of Foreign Asset Control. And halfway through they decided now we'll do a presentation, so you don't have to take the test. You can just come and do this class. So halfway through it, they're going through and they make a mention about money laundering, and one of the people in compliance puts up like a picture of Ozark. So I'm looking and I realize that now, as we're speaking now, the second half of their last batch is out. It should be out for everybody to watch. And so she was like, any questions? And I raised my hand. I was like, this isn't a question. I was just letting everybody know the next season, the last episodes of Ozark's not this Friday. It's the following Friday. So just letting you guys know that. And they thought, they got to laugh because that's usually what I try to do during training stuff. But yeah, that is the only thing on Netflix I can think of that I actually finished all of them. And I'm like, okay. And that's ending. I would say Ozark's probably the closest thing to Stranger Things that's popped since Stranger Things.
And it arguably is a huge, a huge hit for them. But I know,
but
I think they even saw people like as soon as Ozark part 1 of the finale dropped, it's like the week after a bunch of people like unsubscribed, and I'm like, okay, they'll probably come back. But yeah, people are being a lot more selective because with so many things competing for your attention, it's like, oh, I'll go drop my $5 this month as opposed to 15 or 17, whatever Netflix is up to these days.
See, that's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if now, in terms of like,
they can't compete price wise because they keep raising, and pretty much everybody else is like lowballing them.
Right.
The ultimate lowball is Disney Plus, which I believe is still $4.99 or $5.99 a month,
and you get a bundle with that.
And I'm not even it's not even a service I use particularly that much.
Right.
But let's transition over there. Moon Knight is in progress.
Yes.
Episode 5 dropped last night as we're recording this on a Thursday.
What was the one?
So there's one more left. I personally have been completely up and down on this show as the literally episode to episode because the Benson and Moorhead stuff,
yes,
I can tell when they're directing.
Right.
And I really enjoy those episodes. And then Diab, I forget his first name. Is it Mohammed Diab?
That sounds correct.
I may be incorrect with that, but he's doing the odd number episodes, and they're doing the even number episodes. At least that's how it's gone so far. The fact that I can feel that much difference in the direction is kind of very odd to me, other than I think they're going for maybe some of that split brain thing and the multiple personalities in the direction a little bit. So maybe you could say it's a cutesy way to like break it up the season that way. I've been up and down on it. What about you?
I got to catch the most recent one, and should tell you where I'm at. I've kind of fallen asleep in some of them because I appreciate it.
I was gonna say same here. Oddly, it's probably the least engaged I am with anything I'm watching right now. I was very excited by the trailer. I was very on the pilot, but then the second episode where Benson and Moorhead show up to direct, I was a little bit more into, so I stuck around, and I don't know. It's just I've been down on the series lately. I did not enjoy Hawkeye really at all, and yeah, I was super pumped for this one because Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke, and there's been some good stuff, but as a whole, and you know, maybe they'll really stick the landing, but even after the pilot, I was just like, this is only 6 episodes. Like, that's how you wanted to spend your pilot? Okay.
Bro, I did not know we were getting a House of Dragons Game of Thrones prequel coming.
Which, you know,
I don't care. I'll watch it.
I
bought my ticket.
That's
I'll
what
watch the
that's
show.
what HBO is counting on. Is that exact attitude. I don't think what they're prepared for is my attitude, which is utter indifference. Unless somebody tells me it's amazing, I felt so burned, as I feel like a lot of people did. They got to earn my trust back, so to speak. But yeah, can we not get into what's coming?
Sorry, I'm trying to look at what's recapped, like coming out.
Yes, but Moon Knight is almost over. I've been kind of we'll talk about it.
Book of Boba Fett ended in 2022, right?
Yes, it started.
That's what I'm thinking of.
December. But that's a 2022 show.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Because I was like, I was watching Disney Plus for something,
and it was we're past Boba Fett,
right?
Though. We got to move forward.
What was in it before? There wasn't anything in between, right?
In between Boba Fett and Moon Knight, in terms of a Star Wars or Disney property, or Marvel property, rather? No.
There wasn't one, yeah.
No, because it was like they did their usual. It was like a week or two off from Boba Fett, and then Moon Knight started, right?
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. They probably dropped an original movie or something in the midst of their...
I feel like Boba Fett ended, the Oscars happened, and then Moon Knight started. Which, again, I'm no dog in that fight. I appreciate what they're doing. It's neat. It's cool.
I have no investment in that character. Yeah. I was literally like, I'm showing up for the actors and the directors.
Right.
And yeah, it's been a mixed bag thus far. Yeah. Maybe they'll stick the landing and I'll change my whole opinion on it. But
I think in between they let some of the stuff that had been in theaters come out to watch, maybe. Because I know it seemed like it was a decent gap, because it was like all of a sudden it was here and I was like, oh shit. But there's just been so much shit I've been watching. I'm just like flying by the seat of my pants here.
Yeah.
You know?
We don't have to go service by service, but
I mean, if you want to go, I did catch up. I don't know. I guess these are last year, but I did catch up on Ted Lasso on Apple, and I started Severance, and the crazy thing with Severance was I thought it was only going to be 8. So I ended with the whole, like, they're going to get he's going to hit the switch, right? And I was like, what a great season. What a way to end it. And I went and looked, and I'm like, oh yeah, May of 2022, we're going to start season 2. And I was like, okay. And then next week it was like, oh, episode 9 is here. And I was like, are you kidding me? What? And then the way they end episode 9, I'm like, Jesus Christ, it was like a beautiful surprise I didn't know I wanted. I was completely content to end on episode 8 and not know that there was an actual 9 season ender with a big cliffhanger. So that was a delightful surprise. I appreciated that.
Well, I mean, yeah, 8 is kind of a huge cliffhanger, but I knew there was 9 coming, so I was just like, oh my God, what's going to happen as soon as the episode starts? And then I spent that entire finale, like, literally on the edge of my seat. That is some of the best.
Dude, some of the best, like, writing, acting,
just
everything.
Great. I cannot wait for season 2. It's one of those that I know people, I immediately was kind of like, this is so, like, perfect. Does it need a season 2? Like, maybe I want this to at least have a nice end point.
Right.
But with where they left it and, like, some of the implications that are set up and some of the things that are still, you know, lingering mysteries, I just, I can't wait for season 2. I want it, like, right now.
Right.
But, you know, I'm also content to wait and get something that is of that caliber for the second season. I hope Ben Stiller sticks around as the main directing force.
Well, like, and the beautiful thing about it is it's one of those things, and I don't know how many shows you can say do this, but it takes this, just like, you speak the idea of what it is out loud, and we can say it to avoid spoilers. It is basically a show about people who've agreed to basically have their memories of their work and life outside of work cut off. You know, like when you're at work, you only do work stuff. You don't, you know, no recollection. You don't know anything about.
You don't exist.
Outside of work. You know, and as I know you have a weird schedule, but as a 9 to 5 dude, I'm like, God, I would love to do that. You know?
Oh yeah, it sounds fantastic.
It'd be great to just not have to ever worry about work. Like,
yeah.
I don't know, what, at 5 o'clock, I'm me again, and I like, okay, when I wake up in the morning and I get to my office, the next thing I know, it's 5 o'clock and I'm walking right back out the office. Like, shit, was I even at work? And yet, it presents it in such a horrifying, just god awful.
Again, it's
but
one
it's
of
so
those
fucking
that, like,
good and so brilliant.
It's such a genius conceit because it seduces you with like, oh yeah, this makes total sense, and then you start the implications of it.
You start unwinding it in your mind, and you're like, Jesus, this is terrifying.
Yes, I would not want to spoil any of the twists and turns for people, but if there was ever a reason to actually finally check out Apple TV Plus if you don't already have it, Severance is the best selling point to me thus far.
And this podcast is not brought to you by Apple, but they do have an Apple One subscription for $10 a month that allows you to get Apple TV and Apple Music and one other thing, something like that with iTunes for $9 a month. Because I was spending like $9 already for music, and I was like, well, if you want to pay $9 for 3 months and then bump it up to 12 after that, I was like, why wouldn't I? If I can already, if it's going to include my music and I'm not double paying for music, hell yeah, why not?
Yeah.
And I did it right on my phone, and it's just been available to me.
Nice.
Yeah. Definitely worth it.
The other thing to stick around for on Apple TV Plus after you finish Severance is a very different show, but another one that for me is, and I need to catch up on it because I believe it ends today or tomorrow, is Pachinko, which I highly recommend you check out if you haven't already. But it's based on a bestseller. It's about a Korean family basically through the generations, starting out in Korea during the Japanese occupation, and then parts of it take place in Japan a little further down the line, and then like into the 80s also in Japan. Multi-generational story, super interesting, like told on a grand scale. Most of it, at least most of what I've watched so far, is directed by Kogonada, who had After Yang out earlier this year. Not to transition into movies, but that's available on Showtime. One of my top 5 at this point this year. Colin Farrell's in it. Huge recommend. You can watch it on Showtime. It's an A24 movie, but they have it right now.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, Pachinko. Huge recommend.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I've only watched the first 3, which they dropped all at once, and then I was kind of like, okay, I'm gonna wait and catch up on this, and then I got distracted with a show that made me want to like not cross the stream, so to speak. A little show called Tokyo Vice.
Oh my God! Don't go past. Are you caught up with everything?
No, I have not seen 7, and the finale was yesterday, right?
Okay,
or today rather.
Whatever episode ends with old boy fighting in the old man's house. I stopped after that because I was like, I'm gonna wait. I'm not gonna watch these two.
With the assassination attempt?
Yes. It ends with him showing back up after he comes back in and they're in the midst of trying to like fight. That's where it ended for me. And I was
I watched the next one after that, and then I saved 7 because I knew the finale was coming, and I was like, I'm gonna do penultimate straight into the finale.
Okay, so I've got, that was what, 5?
So you've got 3 left.
1, 2, yeah.
You should have 3 left. It's a total of 8.
8.
So then, yeah, if you watch 5, you have 6, 7, and 8 left.
3, 4, 5 came out. And then they did 6 and 7 and then 8?
8 dropped today.
Okay, yeah. That's right. Okay, yeah.
They dropped the first 3.
Then 2.
Then 2. That gets you to 5. Then 2 more. And then the finale came out today.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, so I've got 3 more to watch. You're right.
Yes.
Yeah. What a fucking great show, man.
I am thoroughly enjoying it. I was a little, like... I was wanting... I guess in the pilot, I was like... I mean, I feel his touch, but, like... Where's the Michael Mann, bro? Like, where is it? Like, I didn't fully feel it. And in retrospect, as the show has gone on, I'm like, he definitely, I mean, it has the template, but it's like, it's not suffused with all of, like, his stuff that you expect. But I enjoy that about it at the same time. Elgort, who I'm not a huge fan of as an actor, period, and kind of wish somebody else was in this lead role. The more the show has gone on, what I have enjoyed is that while he is ostensibly your lead character, it's all about the supporting cast.
Oh, of course.
Like 100%.
Yes.
And when he like fucks up or like is kind of like, you know, shown to be a bit of a dick or an asshole, it's like, no, I like that. I was like, I like that they're leaning into this because he's not this like Boy Scout protagonist or whatever. He's kind of petulant and he's kind of shitty. And I already like, I just don't really like him as a performer or a person or any of that stuff. So I guess what I'm hoping for is, I know this is obviously, he's meant to be your POV character and he's your introduction to this world and everything. And it's based on a real guy who wrote this book. I get all of that.
Episode, he produces the show as well.
I get all of that. But I kind of hope that maybe if we get a season 2, there's some way to remove Jake Adelstein from the equation,
right? And
still have a show that is what it already is, because the vibes coming off of it in general, just the Tokyo at night, the lounge bar, the music, the karaoke, like,
you know what it is,
all of it. And then, dude, my whole thing is, I'm like, no, I mean, just give me the Sato show. Like, just literally, you can remove Jake, and like, even Ken Watanabe is just crushing it.
Yes.
Just everybody's crushing it. But I'm like, but I've gotten over the Jake stuff because of the way they've, like, you know, started to portray his character in some of the later episodes. I don't want to go too far into like what you haven't seen. But yeah, so I was a little wary in the pilot because I was super amped for this. Obviously, one of my most anticipated of this year. But it's completely turned a corner. It's one of my favorite things I'm watching right now. And I will probably wrap it up like tonight.
Yeah, I'll probably try and do it this weekend. I think what it is because they said it right after we left, and that's the weird period of, like, I don't know. There's a period that, like, post-war, yes, 80s, and then early 90s before we got there, I always want to see on screen. That's why I love fucking Black Rain. It's like, yes, that's fucking Tokyo in the 90s. That's what it is. The Karate Kid 2, you know, that's like Tokyo, Japan in the 80s, so to speak. You know, even though they go to Okinawa, but then they don't go into Tokyo, right?
Not at all.
Yeah,
I don't think.
It's just Okinawa. But it feels like it's got the vibe of it, and it's like, now it's not modern day, which I appreciate, because it's kind of like, well, how do you do this modern day? You know, it's the very emergence of, like, cell phones. You still have to use payphones for things. You don't have a phone in your hand the entire time. to find this stuff. And
because of the nature of it being the underworld and everything, most stuff is going to take place in like private face-to-face conversations and stuff, which is the nature of it. But
I'd be interested to look at pairing with what his book says and what, if any, information, because it seems like, and that's the beautiful thing of this, like, people know Yakuza. They know who they are, you know? But it almost makes me wonder, like, was there this shakeup? Because, like, at the end of the millennia,
I mean, that's the other thing is I haven't read the book and I have no knowledge
Right.
of, like,
because I've seen stuff
how
where,
things
like,
are going to play out.
Because now, like, the Yakuza games are very popular. I've seen a few videos where they have old school guys that are watching people play it and they're like, really? This is what you think? Like, they dress better than we do, but, like, other than that, like, this is okay, sure, fine, yeah, this is what Yakuza is, because they're not going to talk about it. Mm-hmm. But I remember one they were watching, and the guy that said something, they looked at him, and he just kind of, like, laughed and grinned, but he threw his hands up, and he had one or two nubs, and you're like, oh, this guy's a joker. This guy's gotten in trouble once or twice.
Yeah.
But it was so...
Oh, dude, sorry, I mean, spoilers, but that's such an incredible scene where you think Sato is about to have to cut his pinky off. Mm-hmm. And then it just escalates to dude like jumping off of it was like, oh yeah, I guess that's what you like,
yeah,
I guess that's the situation most of the time.
Honor, dude.
Involuntary suicide. Yeah, dude. All the rules I love.
Yeah.
And like the ritual of like how they're inducted and all of that stuff. It's a great that is where you get the Michael Mann vibes of like, oh, I'm seeing something that's like incredibly well researched and all of that. Yes. The one other thing I want to shout out before we move on, Rinko Kikuchi. Mm-hmm. My absolute favorite, dude. She's so fucking good. And like her interplay with the Jake character is what kind of made me turn the corner on the Jake character a little bit. And I can't review. There's something I think in the episode I just watched, so I can't say anything. But she is one of my absolute favorite elements of the show. She's so good.
Yeah, it's If you have, it may not be for everybody, but if you love Japan, you should check it out. If you don't love Japan,
if you like a crime story that's a little, told in a different fashion, it's a slow burn.
Yes.
But I feel like there's so many intriguing elements, and like it's got enough. It's not an overly complex plot. It doesn't obscure a lot of things from you. Like there's not a core like mystery.
No.
It's a kind of a pleasure to just watch it unfold kind of thing. It's one of those things where like the plotting is pretty satisfying.
And because of the Michael Mann touch, I would give it 98% that like every facet of what we watched, his daily life, the club stuff, the paper stuff, the hierarchy. Like I love the detective gives him a thing and he's like, yeah, there really is no panty snatcher. And like, you're full of shit. Look what you wrote. It's wrong. So the next time they go to dinner, he's like, I go to the bathroom, and he bails on him and like leaves the whole meal on him. I'm like, little fucking touches like that are like, that's what makes this show like hit for me on a different level, because it's just little small things that like the average viewer probably wouldn't appreciate, that like I know you probably got and like fucking loved. And I'm just like, yeah, for two kids who grew up in Japan, this is a fun thing to go back and look at, because again, it's a world we never saw. We were around it in the mid 90s. We saw things. The closest I ever came was the trip I took back when I think I've told you that, right? Seeing the two guys on the street and then like shutting up because they assumed we could speak Japanese. And it's like they weren't going to take any chances that we knew what they were talking about. But like, it's just being able to have that as like a little time capsule of like, this was Japan right before, the world changed, quote unquote, with 9/11. But like at the end of the 90s, with the emergence of like the technology that was coming around the corner versus what they already had. And it's just this little slice of like, here's what it was like. Put it in the annals so we can have it on film that this is what Tokyo in the 90s was, so to speak. I appreciate that.
And I know this sounds completely arbitrary, but literally because of the time difference and the cultural difference, I was like, I gotta put Pachinko on pause until I finish this, because Pachinko, again, jumps through, at this point, 3 separate timelines, and it'll just like transition seamlessly, and it's not confusing. It's very elegantly done. You kind of always know where you are, but it is the whole point of it is a Korean perspective and like what it was like to live under the Japanese occupation and then live in a country where like the majority of the people basically looked at you like you were like less than dirt.
Right.
And like the racism that exists between those two countries that I don't think's ever been really depicted
right
in like a mainstream thing. And it's like pretty upsetting to watch. So it's very interesting. It's like it's very anti-Japan in the show because it's an inherently like Korean perspective. The Japanese are the villains,
of course. Which
and then seeing this where it's like you have the gaijin, you have the American outsider coming in and like slowly figuring out how to navigate his way like on both sides of the law and all this, and it's so well done.
And that's the thing, because like the trip I took back and being there, I always look at it as like I'm enamored with that country. If I could, I would live there. And like I mentioned that to Mom and Dad. I think I told you, and like the next day Dad came in and was like, yeah, there's a finance spot, I could go over there now and we could just live on the base over there again if you want. And she was like, well, you know, with them being in Charleston and Benny being up in North Carolina, maybe not. But that led me to believe that, like, you know, Paul's still with us, but if he wasn't, that like they might have dipped out and gone back to Japan, and Dad would be living and working over there now, doing finance and shit for the military, just living on a base somewhere. And it blows my mind that like that could happen. If we wanted to visit them, we'd have to get on a fucking plane and fly to Narita. But
this is literally like the most exciting thing I've ever heard.
But like, being so fascinated with the country, I know that, and everybody I talk to about, I'm like, I know there's like day-to-day bullshit, but I have the perspective of I'm the outsider, so any interaction I have with somebody, oh, gaijin, you know, they're nice. They're not going to be like, fuck you doing, get out of my way, like somebody in New York would be. So I like that this peels back the veil. Like the scene where he's in the newspaper room and somebody grabs us like, who let the gaijin back here? And you're like, oh no, he works there. Don't they know he works there? I'm like, no, of course, this is exactly what would happen to anybody. And I'm sure that happened to him more than once, being the first gaijin to work at this massive newspaper in this foreign country. So that is the itch that it scratched for me, is just like getting to see the everyday life that I know exists, that I know is not perfect and pretty. And in the movies, it looks great. And like, it's, you know, fantasized and fetishized about being there and living there, whatever. But this is just the closest thing to like the realist, like, oh yeah, that is exactly what it would be like to be a gaijin living in Tokyo.
Yeah.
So, hats off.
Yes.
HBO Max.
Tokyo Vice, huge recommend from both of us. Okay. We'll stick around the HBO area.
Dude, HBO has pretty much everything.
Are you watching Winning Time?
Yes.
Okay. Are you up to date?
Oh yeah.
Me as well. That's been my Sunday night go-to.
Oh yeah.
I know there's been a ton of articles recently with like people complaining about the accuracy and the flights of fancy, and I don't get it at all. It's one of the most entertaining things I've watched this year so far. I'm always excited to throw it on Sunday.
Oh yeah. I went back and watched the Magic and Bird documentary they did just because of that last episode.
I've literally been saving all of that stuff because literally, like, when you pull up Winning Time, you'll see below it there's literally like 5 or 6 documentaries that they have on HBO Max that are all about the Bird Magic saga, and of course the new Magic documentary is on Apple TV Plus, which I may watch after all this is said and done. But just the sheer the fact that, for me as just an aesthetic TV fan, the fact that it basically is like period succession on cocaine is amazing. The way they drift between the different film stocks within a given scene, and like some stuff looks like old grainy shitty like late 70s like broadcast television is incredible. I love all of that. It's so overcranked. John C. Reilly it's a tour de force. I absolutely love him in it. All the supporting players, but particularly Tracy Letts as Bill McKinney is like, he needs a fucking Emmy. I thought. And he has the one kind of highlight episode. It's the episode where, like, everything's going great, dude. They're killing it. And the team's finally coming together. And they learn the system. And they're crushing it. And then he goes out to, like, ride his bike.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, like... And I know nothing of of Lakers history.
Yeah.
But just the language of television, I'm like, this episode, like, things were going way too good. I'm like...
but they fake you out too.
I was like, and they're lingering so long on this, and they do the fake out, and I'm like, what? I was like, oh, is it like a nothing can touch him kind of moment? Like cut to credits, and then nope, his brakes fail, and that I was just like, oh man. Oh,
yeah,
God.
the slide and the amount of blood on the slide, I was like,
I immediately hopped to Google, like, is Bill McKinney alive?
Yes.
Did he die in the middle of their season? Like, what happened?
Yeah.
And then, of course, I'm like, well, I don't want to spoil too much for myself. So I was like, oh no, he died like many years later.
Right.
Okay, we're good. So, but yeah, having no, like, I get that if you're a hardcore sports fan or like you lived through it or you're a part of the team, like, but that's with anything that gets adapted, you're going to have issues and shit.
The only person I want to hear from is I just want to hear what Jerry West has to say.
Oh, he's so pissed. He demanded a retraction. You didn't see this? He demanded that HBO basically print like a disclaimer saying like, this does not depict Jerry West, honestly, or whatever. And HBO just turned around and they were like, look, it's an adaptation of this book. Like, shit happens essentially, but they were like, but we stand by our creators, blah blah blah, and this was a well-researched project. And I kind of essentially saying like, okay, Jerry West, maybe you weren't 100% like this, but like, you
read the room, Jerry. There's a reason why some of this is there.
And Jason Clarke is just like,
see, well, here's the thing. After the first two, I just happened they switched up the Gamecock radio schedule, so now Dan Patrick will come on in the afternoon. So you already know the news, and you're listening to them talk about stuff that may or may not happen that day. It's kind of weird. Mm-hmm. But they had an interview with Jason Clarke, and he was like, I didn't want to meet him. I tried to, like, I listened to a lot of him, and I did all this stuff, and I would love to go and sit down and talk with him, but not about that. I don't want him to. I did what was there, what was on the screen. I don't know him personally. I'm not trying to do whatever. I'm playing this how they told me, which is a guy who won big as a player, could never win big as a coach, and is trying to figure out what he's doing next. A guy who loves something so much he can't let it go, but he can't be at the helm anymore. He can't, be this dude. And I can understand him being like, pissed off about some of the depictions, but just like the episode with the game in Boston, and he can't get out of the limo, and his whole thing is like, if you just beat him to begin with, you're fine. But if you lose to him on their home court, you lose to him once, you're always going to lose to him. And so just whenever they finally win, and like the guy rolls the window back down, and he just, fuck you, like flicking him off from the back seat. Fuck Boston. Yeah. And like forever, like fuck Boston. Like just the entire, like Boston now, the Celtics, they are moving forward this season. Good for them. But like just.
Well, no, I was just going to say, I mean, if I had to pick a team, that's my team.
Yeah.
But like more, like Paul Pierce, Ray Allen.
Yeah.
Era.
Yeah, maybe.
Who's the other guy?
I love the guy they have.
That's when they were like crushing it for a few years. That's like what, like mid 2000s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right as Kobe got in the league before LeBron came along.
That's maybe my like self. That's like who I would play with in that era of,
because
of
the last finals I bet on was LeBron was still playing against the Celtics. That's I believe Kobe beat them in the last championship they had before the one they had 2 years ago. So, and of course they're out now because they're terrible. Which I was like, that's a jinx, dude. Like, the universe gave you that win in the bubble because it took Kobe from us. Are you curious? Like, the one person I haven't heard from, I'm so curious what Larry Bird thinks. Me too. And I'm sure Larry's probably like, yeah, that's probably me. Or Larry's probably like, you know what? I was probably a lot meaner than that. Or like, because I watched the thing and he was like, I can't help it, man. I didn't want to be, everything that they put into the Larry character. When you watch the Magic and Bird when they have up on there, you're like, oh, he probably doesn't give a shit. He probably laughs at it.
Well, that's what I mean. The whole time I'm watching Winning Time, I keep thinking about like the moment in The Last Dance where it's like Magic and Larry, like, back in the bowels of the Bulls Stadium or whatever, like shooting the shit with Michael and like basically just being like, oh, fuck you sort of thing. And I'm like, yeah, like these guys are just like hanging out. It's all chill and everything, but it's like, but there was a point where like they probably were like, no, legitimately, fuck you. Like,
Yeah.
this, not in a joking, fun way. Fuck you. I'm
Yeah.
gonna take you out. Yeah.
Yeah, to the point they show the clip that
I'm
like
loving it. I think we got 2 or 3 more left of that.
I'm waiting to see if they get there, but the game I remember where Larry Bird threw the ball at Kareem, he was so pissed off about losing.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course, and they showed it in that first one where like they won the first game and Magic is just jumping all over Kareem like it's game 5 of the finals, and they're like, we just never was used to that energy. And it's like, yeah, he's, you know, there, and that's the thing I appreciate about it is there's enough of like, it's enough of an ensemble that I don't feel like it's like, hey, you should really just pay attention to this kid they got to play Magic Johnson. He's going to be great. Because like some of my favorite stuff has been Kareem, the guy who plays him, like the conversations he had with Irvin Sr. And he was like, if he messes up, beat his ass for me. Like he don't need to be, you know, keep him in check, you know.
Wood Harris as Haywood,
yes.
which I think is about to have like a big episode coming up, I would assume.
Oh, yeah, Spencer Haywood
has like a huge meltdown and everything.
Who is that?
Huh? It's Wood Harris.
That's Remember the Titans, right?
I mean, he's Avon Barksdale.
Yeah,
from The Wire, but
right.
Among many other awesome things.
What have you thought of the cameos of like people who are people like?
Oh, I
Mike
love
Epps
the way they're
playing Richard Pryor.
I love the way they're integrated because, again, I don't know any of the like. The biggest one for me was when the dancer who they have stick around and everything, and it's like, oh yeah, I lied to get this and blah blah blah, and it's like, oh yeah, by the way, this is Paul Abdul, and I was like,
first Laker girl.
I was like, I guess I knew that in the back of my brain, but like,
you don't think about it.
Yeah, Paul Abdul.
My favorite thing is like,
but yeah, Mike Epps as Richard Pryor was
the
really
first
good.
episode where he was like, Don always talks about owning a team, but he never wants to pony up the dough, and it comes up and it says Don, it's the owner of the Clippers. Don Sterling, second worst Donald of the 80s. I was like, there we go. Because the whole, I mean, he's the, you know, fuck Don Sterling, but still, you know. And then the he's having to choose between Nike or Converse, and he has that moment of like, huh, my name is on the back of these shoes though, which is how they notoriously went after everybody. And they titled up, it's like, Nike stock in 1979, 59 cents a share. Nike stock at 20,
like what, $52 million or some shit.
It was a $5 billion increase.
$5 billion,
excuse me. And he was like, the guy who's playing the exec just turns to the camera and goes, he still regrets it to this day. Like that's the fact that I love
that. I love that.
The fourth
Nike
wall
salesman.
when
that guy was great.
Yeah, when they tell me what's going on, I love it. Like when anytime John C. Reilly looks at the camera, it's like, and you do this and this and this and that, but here we go. It's like I'm just watching this from afar. He knows I'm there, and he's gonna come in at these moments where I need some levity.
My whole thing is I'm just like the people who are upset that it's not more faithful to the actual events or whatever. I'm like, they've made so many documentaries about this. Like, why would you want a show that's just that? I like that it's a fucking spectacle and it's a show, and it's like, no, we're just trying to be entertaining. I'm loving it. I what?
Pat Riley, fucking Brody is Pat Riley.
I was gonna say Adrian Brody and Jason Segel in particular.
Perfect.
Or excuse me, I was gonna say Adrian Brody in particular, but him and Segel and their dynamic has been incredible. But again, Tracy Letts is my dude for like the season overall so far. Just incredible shit.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, John C. Reilly just holding it all together. Gabby Hoffman as like the main assistant woman. I can't think of her name right now. She's great. Everybody's
Sally
great.
Field, dude. Like that show's amazing.
Dude. Murder's Row, and then all of the players are like fantastic.
Oh yeah,
and a lot of people that like I don't know outside of Wood Harris. A lot of people I'm seeing for like the first time, or maybe I've caught them in like one or two other things. Anyways, I was gonna transition earlier, but off of Wood Harris in Winning Time, and I referenced The Wire. Have you watched the first episode of We Own This City?
No, not yet.
You are aware of it?
Yes, I know the name.
What's it about? Okay. It's the latest show from David Simon, and I think George Pelicanos is with them on this one.
Oh, the George Pelicanos.
Or maybe it's Ed Burns on this one. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Why isn't he in stuff anymore?
It's not the Ed Burns you're thinking of. The other guy. The other Ed
My
Burns.
apologies.
Not Edward. Yes.
Not Edward Burns. Ed Burns.
Anyways,
Got it.
We Own This City is about the gun trace task force in Baltimore in like 2014, 15, I think is when most of this went down.
So I have like The Wire 2,
I bought
Electric Boogaloo?
No.
Okay.
Not really. Because this is like true fact-based, like these are actual people sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I bought the wrong book on it, apparently. When it was announced, it was like, they're adapting this book that was written about it. So I went out and bought it immediately.
But it was the wrong book.
And then as it got further into development, it was like, oh no, they're actually using this one instead. And I was like, well, shit.
Well, now I know a whole lot about this gun task force I didn't think I knew. I wanted to know, but sure.
Yes. Anyways, it's essentially a group of dirty cops in Baltimore who were just straight up ripping off drug dealers. Like, we go into this house, we know there's a stash, blah, blah, blah. We report the guns and the drugs that we find, but the plain just like piles of cash, we're just going to take that and distribute it amongst ourselves. And essentially, like, but we're also going to be playing both sides and like get people to inform on other people, and we're just going to run roughshod over, like, under the guise of we're cleaning up the streets, but we're also like, we're war profiteers essentially.
Yeah.
On the war on drugs. So,
which was a mistake.
Your lead dirty cop that we're following, but it is a, like most David Simon shows, it is a mosaic, and you got a bunch of different threads and plot lines going. It's John Bernthal, baby. Have you not seen this trailer?
Hell no.
Oh my God. I almost want to show it to you in the room, but the first episode is a 6-episode miniseries. I don't think it's, they're going to get the whole story told.
Yeah.
So yeah, 6-episode. I mean, most recently they had The Plot Against America, same team.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'll check it out.
And The Deuce, of course, which I've told you to go back to,
Yeah.
and The Wire, the best show ever made.
Yeah.
There's also Treme, which is also on HBO.
I tried.
Did you ever do Show Me a Hero with Oscar Isaac?
No.
Good miniseries. Yeah.
I'll get to the backlog I got on HBO.
Trust
Max.
me, if you watched the trailer for We Own This City, you would be like, can we end this episode so I can go watch the first episode? Like, it's that. This was the one I was the most.
I will force myself to wait until it's finished so I can watch it in its entirety.
This was the one I was the most amped for, and that pilot fucking delivered. It was everything I wanted it to be. I'm so glad there's a David Simon show back on the air. And it's fantastic. But yeah, John Bernthal is like your lead, but Momi Wasaku she was on Lovecraft Country and Loki. She was the one in Lovecraft Country who was like putting on the skin of the bigger sister who was doing the...
Oh yeah, the fine...
Yeah, she would put on the skin and then like tear out of it and everything. Yeah.
She's fucking beautiful.
She's kind of like the lead. She's a legal, I forget what her actual, she's a lawyer, but I forget what her actual position is. And she kind of is stumbling onto the conspiracy that eventually leads to these cops being brought down. And the whole setup of the show is like the interrogations of these guys who are being brought in. And then we're flashing back to like different periods of Baltimore police history and everything. Like post Freddie Gray, like right in 2014, 2015. And how it like changed the landscape of policing, and like a lot of people backed off entirely. And like there's literally scenes, which I guess actually played out, of like these cops go up to like make an arrest, and because there's a lot of citizens paying attention and like actually videotaping them and everything, they literally like give up on an arrest, which I guess was happening left and right, where it was just like, all right, we just don't even want to fucking deal with the hassle. Fuck you guys, police yourselves. And then they would just bail. And it's like, well, what are we even doing here? Like, what is the point of any of this shit?
Yeah.
So, of course, it's super fucking good. I'm already like, given the fact that there's so much stuff out, I'm so excited that like Tokyo Vice is only 8 episodes.
Right.
This is only 6. I'm kind of excited that Moon Knight's only 6. And like some of them are using their runtimes better than others, but this immediately I was like, yeah, man, I kind of wish this was like
already
a 12 episode. No, I kind of wish this was a 12 episode miniseries. Okay. Like I want it to just go on and like, but there's not. But again, because it's not they're not building a bunch of fictional elements into this one. They're not building out this whole world of The Wire. It's like we're focused on these cops and like the surrounding implications a bit, but like unless episode 2 all of a sudden we get into like a more, you know, normal everyday character and they're another element of it, I think we're centrally focused on the cops and the lawyers and feds who get brought into it, and that's that. It's very good. You should check it out.
Okay.
Anything else on HBO?
Oh, there's a ton of stuff. I was saying, you want to just like, we can shout out a bunch more and we'll just finish our discussion on TV with Atlanta season 3, and then I
was saving it for last.
Okay,
obviously.
good. Yeah. Synergy, baby. That's what I was going with. Yeah. I've caught up on the Yellowstone, the whitest show in America, 1883. Great.
Even whiter.
Yeah.
Yellowstone.
No.
But whiter.
1883. There is a black guy, and he is Sam Elliott's friend, and I appreciate that.
Of course.
I did read this thing where, like, at the end of rapping, Tim McGraw was like, "Just want to thank you a lot. You know, it was so great working with you. I learned a lot, or whatever." And Sam Elliott turned to him and said, "Well, I didn't learn a fucking thing from you." He was joking, obviously, but it's just like so
that's
fucking
very,
like no purpose for
funny.
that.
I would like piss my pants if he said that.
What is Raised by Wolves? Killed that.
If we want to dip back into that, which I don't know if we ever got a chance to talk about it, but Raised by Wolves, I turned a corner on it. I was having a little issue early on. Pam and Tommy kind of fizzled out.
Yeah.
Peacemaker was a good time.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Righteous Gemstones season 2, thoroughly enjoyed. Book of Boba Fett was what it was. That's as far as I want to go back. I feel like that's the only other stuff we didn't really cover. Okay, other stuff that I am watching currently / am going to be watching. Our Flag Means Death, I have finished.
I'm working.
It's fantastic.
Yes.
It's a great time.
I watched the first 2, and then
also on HBO Max. Yeah. Huge recommend. That's the new Taika Waititi pirate show with Reese Darby. So we finally get, you know,
another
one. Did he do the werewolf show, but on a different network or something?
Maybe.
I don't know. There is some other connected same team show that I don't watch. I think it's Wellington Paranormal or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. Outer Range.
Yes.
On Prime. Are you watching? Have you checked it out?
I got the first 2 done. That's another one I pulled back.
Pretty wild fucking show,
dude.
Eh?
Fucking great show.
Yeah, I am. Go ahead.
Okay. Did I tell you on mic about all of us talking about Yellowstone and me turning to Dan and be like, "Have you watched Banshee?" And him laughing in front of everybody. We start that show, and the first thing Bex does, she looks at me and she goes, "Hey, have you seen Banshee?" When I realized like who one of the brothers is, he was the fucking neo-Nazi turned good cop, and I was just like, "You fuck!" I couldn't help but laugh my ass off. But like, what?
Sorry,
it's a great fucking void, Noah.
The way that show starts, though, it's like, "You ever hear about a Greek god named Kronos?" I was just like, "Fuck. Yes." I was like,
"I'm in. I don't care what the fuck happens."
I was like, "You have my attention, sir."
How many do we have to watch now? Oh, just 2 now? Okay, all right. I'm here. Yes, dude, so fucking good. Like, and out of left field, I didn't know know a damn thing about it.
What is the fucking Django line?
What?
"Gentlemen, you had my curiosity. Now you have my attention." I was just immediately like hooked from the opening montage where it's just like, dude, the trailer for this looked like fucking wild, but like this is like pedal to the metal from the get-go. And then that first episode, I've heard this echoed by a lot of people recently, but I'm like, there's like a whole season's worth of shit that happens in that very first episode. So much so that I was like, well, they can't keep up this pace.
And they do.
And then they do. And then they do again. And I have not watched the 4th one yet. I think there's more out now.
There should be now.
There's only 8 total, I think, this season.
We should be up to 6 then now.
But that show is off the rail. We're going to have to come back at a later date because there's too much going on.
Yes.
That one deserves a bit of a breakdown, but I'm having a great time.
Because I honestly...
What a wild ride.
It popped up and I was like, oh, this is like Amazon's like, oh, Yellowstone was a hit. Let's make one. And then I watched the trailer and I was like, oh, no, fuck no. This is not that at all.
True Detective meets Yellowstone meets The Twilight Zone.
Yes. Speaking of that, I did go back and watch all of season 2 of the Twilight Zone series. That happened. I think they finished.
You're talking about the new Jordan Peele?
Yes.
I didn't know that they had done a season.
Yes.
That's Paramount, right?
Right.
Okay,
But
so
the thing I love
Paramount.
is before season 2 dropped, they re-released all of season 1 in black and white. So it feels like
Very
a
cool.
I watched fucking Nightmare at 30,000 feet in black and white with our boy Adam Scott.
Which I don't know why I didn't shout him out specifically, but he was on the Watch podcast, and I was it's so weird because at the end of the day, like, it's a celebrity, it's an actor. Like, I have no personal connection to the guy, except I do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for somebody that I have like enjoyed for so long and been rooting for, he was always been a guy where I'm like, people don't fucking get it, man. I'm like, he's the fucking man. He's like incredibly versatile, but doesn't get enough credit for it. Doesn't get enough opportunities to show the range. And then you listen to like fucking any of the Scott Aukerman podcasts, and you're just like, he's hysterically funny.
Yes.
Like, just off the cuff improv guy who's not a traditional improv guy at all, but like, he can do it all. And I think Ben Stiller, who had worked with him on Secret Life of Walter Mitty,
right,
and obviously saw like, I like this dude, or I like hanging out with him at least, and like, I think he can do this. But to see him basically be on a fucking hit show, be the lead of it, be the main emotional anchor of it, and just completely crush everything he's asked to do in a very complex role, which all of them are playing incredibly complex roles, but is just so satisfying. I love that guy. I've always been a huge fan.
Not to mention,
I feel like it is paying off in such a big way. And fucking Party Down is coming back later this year. They're fucking reviving it. He's having such a moment.
Yeah.
I'm so happy, dude.
Plus, not to mention, if you go back and watch Hellraiser Bloodline, he looks 10 years older now. Like, he looks 10 years older in 1990, whatever, than he looks now. He looks younger now. I think him and Paul Rudd must have grown up at the same time.
He's definitely taken some lessons from Rudd. He's getting some tips of some kind. But yeah, I look forward to him crushing it. Definitely needs an Emmy nomination. Does... Dude, sorry, we got to go back to Severance for a minute. Fucking Turturro?
Yes.
On that show?
Oh my God, dude.
Heartbreaking, man. He just... Oh my God. And then, oh my God. I think it's Nick Cherry. Zach Cherry.
Yeah, yeah.
Is playing... oh my God. Why am I... It's been like a week since I stopped watching it. I forget everybody's names.
The other one.
Yes, the other one. And then Helly R, of course. And then fucking Patricia Arquette is just like...
Oh my God, dude. She's going batshit, man. I love it. I do love that, like, the
dude who plays Milchick?
Yes.
Incredible. I don't know if I've seen...
Trammell
Tillman, I think.
He's not... As far as I know, he hasn't been anything. This is like his first thing.
Incredible, dude.
Yes.
Oh God, I hope that show gets everything. Not that the awards matter, but Severance is, at this point, that is the best thing I've seen this year. Now, well, we'll get to it.
Now, if you want that but funny, you really... I know you're not a big Sudeikis fan, but like, fucking Ted Lasso is a brilliant show.
I need to get to it.
It's so fucking good.
Especially now that I'm on the Apple train.
Right.
Okay. I'm just going to shout out a few that I'm excited for. The Offer just started. We'll check it out. Barry, Season 3. It's week to week. We only get 8 episodes. I'm already sad that we only get 7 more of them. Did you watch the first one? Or
no,
are you waiting?
It's one I have to wait for Bex on. That's like a tradition.
I completely...
You didn't know you needed more of it always in your life.
I forgot how much I missed it until it was back, and then I was like, oh fuck.
I'm gonna try and convince her to watch 1 and 2 again to save up, because one of our things we love to do is to catch up with shit.
Dude,
when we're in Florida.
I recommend, maybe go back and linger on those.
I'm gonna
because
wait. I'm trying to wait.
The first episode of Season 3 alone, I was just like, this is what the show is now? I was like, I don't know if I can take this every week. Holy shit.
Yeah.
It is so dark.
Yeah.
It's so upsetting. But still really fucking funny at the same time. It's I'm loving it. But yeah, I'm totally fine that is going to be week to week, because got to take my time with it. Okay. Under the Banner of Heaven starts. That's the new Andrew Garfield one that's on Hulu.
today.
True crime that is available to watch. So is The Offer. We'll get back to you soon with initial thoughts on those, and maybe wrap up some of our thoughts on some of these things that'll be ending, such as Tokyo Vice, which we can talk about more in depth. Outer Range should be done roughly by the next time we do this, and Winning Time. Basically, everything we hit, I want to kind of like circle back to and be like, where does everything shake out at?
We do it midsummer.
Severance, yes.
Give it some time. That way we can break in between.
And there's other stuff coming down the pike that we'll want to catch up on as well. Severance, I say right now, is my number one.
Oh, yeah.
Simply because it's over and done with.
Right.
But I personally, and I know there's a lot of, I mean, maybe not a lot of debate, because that's another thing, is I haven't seen a lot of coverage of this, but for my money, the streak is unbroken, baby. Atlanta season 3 is the best show on television. Killing it. There's no, I mean,
you can't compare.
It came back. It's like it never left.
Yeah.
It's a cut above everything else. I savor it every week, and it's a fucking meal, dude. Every single episode this season has been a fucking meal that maybe even if I didn't appreciate it upon first blush, it's like when I sat and thought about it for like an hour, I was like, oh, shit. Yeah. Oh, shit. But, yeah. Obviously we're both completely up to date, except there was one that we haven't watched whatever came out today.
No, I didn't watch last week either.
Oh, you're too behind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because last week, what did we do? Did we catch Bam? I can't remember what we did. No, I went to Greenville last weekend. I went Greenville Saturday. And went up, and there was a dinner for the Veterans Association thing that was at my buddy's funeral. His mom invited us up there. Me and Perk went up there, and so Bex came with me, and Perk brought his girlfriend, and we did that whole thing. And I got back, and I was like, shit, we forgot about Atlanta. And I got back so late Sunday, I was like, let's save it. Neither one of us watch it. Next week, we'll get to. How about that? Okay, so... also I will recommend Lust Gentlemen's Club, Greenville, top notch. It's right around the corner from the Trophy Club. But hats off.
Okay.
There's a lot of showmanship. There's actually like a curtain that they come out of. It's not just like they just walk up on the stage like they do at Platinum West. There's a curtain
in Greenville.
Little showmanship. Yeah, funnily enough, it's off Airport Road. All strip clubs, always near the airport. Anyway, yeah, so I'm not caught up on Atlanta 2 episodes back.
What's the last one you saw?
The Phone.
Okay, Cancer Attack.
Sure.
Yes, the missing phone, the interrogation of the paperboy Stan, and the reveal that Socks had it the whole fucking time, which I called immediately, but...
And then just left it?
Yeah, he threw it away at the end of the episode.
That's what I've been pondering this entire time. What is the meaning of it all?
Well, I mean, spoiler alert, but not a spoiler at all. The next episode, we're still with our crew, if you will. Mm-hmm. And Socks is nowhere to be seen. He's just not there.
Huh.
No, I'm just saying, like, that's been the flow. I guess it's been very revealing because there's been this huge gap that now that it's back, you're seeing like, oh, well, there's a certain contingent of people who thought like, no, I know what this show is.
Right.
And they're really struggling with a lot of this.
Right.
And then I'm like, I came a little late to the party. Like season 1 was over and done with before I started watching it. So I came to it in a binge and then started watching 2 like right on the back of it because it was coming out.
Right.
And it was like, This Is America was happening right there. It was just, I was like, fucking, I need, like, you've been hearing about this, fucking dive in, essentially. And, yeah, what I have always loved about the show is every time I sit down to watch an episode, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to get.
Right.
I just know it's going to be good. And it's going to be unlike anything else I'm watching on TV.
Oh.
So that's my only standard of quality, which is just like the show to be true to itself. But it seems like there is a huge contingent of people who are like, yo, I thought this was about them like trying to make it in the music industry, and like, what happened to all that? And I'm like, part of me is like, well, I mean, if you want to watch that show, go watch Dave, dude. Like, that's I mean, if you want a moment to moment
Right.
chronicle of like a struggling musician, which I love Donald Glover's take on Dave, which is basically just like, he was like, no, it should be about, like a huge element of it should be about the fact that it's like, no, he's not a struggling rapper, and it's super easy for him because he's white.
Right.
And then him dealing with the idea of like feeling like a
fraud,
like a fraud. And I was like, yeah, that would be really interesting. Like, I'm sitting there going like, are they gonna literally like rewrite season 3 and be like, oh, that's a really good idea. We should definitely make that a part of the show.
We should lean into this completely.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just, I've never,
well,
like,
what's
perfect example. I have a coworker who I recently got to start watching the show, where I was just like, yeah, season 3 is coming back. Like, if you've never watched it, it's on Hulu. You should check it out. And they start watching it, and it's just, she's like a decent ways into the first season, and she's like, oh yeah, I'm just looking forward to, like, you know, I hope they start making some money and blah blah blah. And I'm sitting there in my head going like, it's not a plot show. And I kind of told her, I was like, just so you know, I'm like, you know, things do evolve with that, but I'm like, but it's not a plot show. I'm like, I was like, there will be huge gaps in time that will happen between episodes, huge like change in dynamics between characters that you kind of have to piece together.
But the one thing I do appreciate, which I didn't think they would ever do, but they did, was the episode where he was like, oh, I could, if you give me this money now, like I could turn it into more money down the road. And just to kind of give them the argument of like, yeah, we're not a plot show, but like we know what we're doing. When he comes back later, it's like, oh yeah, man, this is for that money you gave me for the phone or whatever a while back,
which is in season 2. Right. I believe the setup for that is in season 1.
Right. That's why I'm like, this show can fucking do no wrong. Like, literally, it can't. Like, I thought the Nando's episode was hilarious, but then we get the CEO of Tesla gets sued by people's family who used to own him. That episode alone is worth everything.
3 slaps. The premiere,
yes,
which I think immediately goes in the top 3 pantheon of the entire series, and then yes, the big payback, which is episode 4,
right? The
reparations episode,
yes.
Those 2, in particular, I'm like, the first one ends with it's Ern's dream,
right?
Okay, but like the first opening sequence with the white Ern on the river and the other guy and the like. Terrifying. That is the kid's dream, and then all of that stuff plays out, which, shame to say, I had no idea was like. I had no idea what they were referencing, and then I went and read up on the Hart family case, and I was like, holy shit. And then it gave so much more resonance to the episode, which I then went back and rewatched because it was like, oh, this is like the fantasy fairy tale version of how this could have gone. Right. This is even more upsetting. Like it was cathartic and happy the first time I watched it. Yeah. The second time I watched it, it was like bleak and tragic and upsetting and like, oh, this like, oh my God.
And they planned it perfectly because they know you and everybody would do that.
Yeah.
There were 6 people who knew about that. 4 of them were writers on the show, I'm sure.
That at the end of that is television moving beyond just the like the entertainment factor. And that's pulling off the thing like the fucking premiere of Watchmen, where then you literally saw for the next month people were like, Tulsa race riots. Who knew? Holy shit. And like
there were 2 big
I would
things
say probably about 8. Well, Lovecraft Country came afterwards, and then kind of like, you know,
and technically 3 because I listened to American History Tellers give me a play-by-play of that. Yeah,
that
all in the same and I loved that it was all in the same anniversary year. No one knew about it.
Yes,
and it was weird. That was one of those weirds like we're in a simulation because I listened to American History Tellers, and Lindsey Graham told me, not that Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham told me all about what happened and told me like a breakdown of everything from the moment that started it all, and everybody just being pissed off that there was this neighborhood that was like Black Wall Street and everything was great, everything was booming for these people. From that, the spark to let's just mow it all down, let's just get rid of it all, you know. And like I was honestly fucking disgusted hearing about it.
Yeah.
And later that year, I get 2 separate shows that deal with it. I'm like, we are in a simulation. This is how it would go. This is the Tulsa race riot section of the simulation where the player that's playing me is like, I'm interested in that, and throws it into my world 3 different times so that I get it, which I got it the first time. But it was just crazy how all that connected in that same year. It's just wild. But yeah, you're right. That's what it's doing. It's making you to the point that if that's true, and that's White Urn, but it's the kid's dream, what does that say about him when he shows back up in the reparations episode?
Well, that is my ultimate question, because I'm like, is this existing in this like dreamlike space where it's like all of these standalone episodes are meant to be meditations on a theme, or like we're just kind of exploring stuff, whatever. There's no connection, or when they get back from Europe, which I'm assuming and hoping the end of this season is kind of them ultimately coming to the realization that it's like, yes, we're doing a lot better financially, but we're like still dealing with the same bullshit essentially, no matter where we go. Like certain things are inescapable,
which we've seen pop up,
and a feeling inevitably of like, gotta go back home, gotta go back to my roots, whatever. And eventually they do end up back in Atlanta. My question really and truly is like, when they come back to the States, like, are we living in a reality where like that actually happened? The reparations thing happened. Right. I'm just so curious, because I'm like, that could almost be a final twist on the entire season, because first of all, I hope we get a couple more of these standalones before the season is out.
Yeah.
I would take as many as they want to give. I know people are like, no, we want to stick with the characters, blah, blah, blah. They get mad when it's not the main characters. I completely disagree.
You know what would be really fucking wild is if we missed something that told us that the reparations one was like years down the road, and that like they were already famous at this point. Like Paperboy was huge already. That these are not necessarily like what they're going back to, but like a glimpse of the future that we're going to see at the end.
Just the simple little twist of like in the very first episode, he's like, oh, have you ever been to Amsterdam or Budapest or wherever they are in the first episode? And he's like, oh yeah, we came through here last year. And you're like, oh shit. The whole drama of season 2 and everything at the very end where we're like, oh shit, he like fucked over Tracy, and like they got on the plane and there's this tension between Paperboy and Earn, like what's going to happen with all that. We come into season 3 and it's like, oh yeah, this is their second time back to Europe.
Right.
Like some time has passed, and then like on top of it, like they're way more successful. He seems like
the venues he's selling
maybe
out are way
not
bigger.
like maybe not like a like Drake or like Kanye level, but like maybe like Rick Ross or something, like known, respected, international. I don't know.
Yeah, I could see that. Or like a maybe like he's like a Killer Mike level.
Yeah.
Like he's
I also keep waiting and hoping that somehow Killer Mike factors in.
Oh, I would love it.
Either as himself or as, because especially, well, you haven't gotten to the most recent one, but honestly, a lot of the stuff in the most recent episode that you haven't seen, I'm like, oh my god, I'm like, literally final episode, he comes back and like, I don't know, he randomly runs into Killer Mike on the street and like they talk. It would be the culmination of like a lot of the stuff they've been dealing with. Anyways, I'm just like writing
I would love it if
I
would love it if they Small Fry made it back into America, hit Uber, maneuvered out there. Like they come back and he's getting held up by customs. Like, what's this joint doing in your passport? He's like, can I just sign, give him an autograph, like, hey, and then they share a fucking cab Uber back to, whatever. And it's like, I've been on tour in Europe. He's like, yeah, it's all, but now you got to deal with this. Like, yeah, you're good overseas, but like, you ain't put out shit over here in a while. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah. And then, of course, we already know, if I'm not mistaken, season 4, is it in the, like, they're editing season 4 right now? And that's it.
Yeah.
So
I listened to...
It's done. It's shot. And I don't think I don't think they're making us wait that long, as I understand it.
That'd be nice.
I think it's gonna be, not a full like year gap or anything. So, anything else you wanted to say on Atlanta?
I love that it was like, just the Nando's episode where it's like, I heard what she did to you, man. That's messed up. I heard what she said. At the very end, it's like, oh man, I am Darius. I am so sorry. And it's the dude that Ern has been talking to the entire night. I am so sorry for what my family, not even the wedding is off. Like, I was fucking dying that entire episode. It was so. Lakeith Stanfield is just. It's like the last one.
We say this all the time. They all are.
Yes.
Wherever you point the camera, you're just like, oh yeah, I want to spend more time with this person.
Him being so upset that they can't go on the ghost field trip hunt. That's all he wanted to do. He just wanted to go tour this fucking backlot because it might be haunted.
Find the cell phone.
And he's like, yeah, this wasn't how my night was gonna go either. It's like, it's poor thing.
Listen to me, bro. I'm gonna come after you. I'm the white Liam Neeson.
Socks just said the N word, did he? Yeah, he did. It's like,
did you mean to say the white Samuel L. Jackson?
Liam Neeson's already white. That is literally, he said that shit, and Bex looked at me and was like, Liam Neeson is white. And I was like,
Here's the thing. He was going off so hard. It's like, I didn't even catch it until they make the reference to it. And then, like, me catching up to it was even funnier in the moment.
Yes.
Like, oh my God, man.
Yeah.
That show is so brilliant. But yeah, and that episode, of course, also has my favorite piece of Brian Tyree Henry so far, which is where he's like, explains why he needs the cell phone back.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, oh my God, like more of this. I need a Woods of this season, which I think still is my all-time favorite episode.
Oh yeah.
But I need a what's going on with Paperboy episode. I also need a what the fuck is going on with Van episode.
Yes.
I need I guess hers was the I can't remember what the title was, but the Oktoberfest episode of season 2 was very much like, that's a Van episode.
Well, and that's the thing. The Nando's episode, they just fucking left her in that house. She was in the Nando's like thing.
Well, yeah, and she's just
they cut back to like, oh, she's just fine. She's eating in a diner by herself.
The first episode, it's like she goes into that hotel room and you're like, what? Okay, she's just here? Like,
yeah.
Cool.
And then the fucking Tupac thing. Oh my God. So fucking...
Dude, that's the other...
Okay, fucking so Midsommar all day long. Dude.
I binged through 1 and 2 to catch back up because it had been so long. And I knew there were so many shows that were coming back. I was like, I'm not doing that with Better Call Saul. I'm not doing that with Barry. I was like, Atlanta is the only one that I'm going to rewatch all of them before I go into this season. And I cannot wait to go back through all of this. I've watched the pilot. I've watched 3 Slaps twice, but I have not... Oh, excuse me. And I watched The Big Payback twice.
Yeah.
That dude, Justin Bartha...
Note.
Chef's kiss
fucking
casting.
Note perfect.
What a perfect casting choice.
Yeah.
For that character and everything you need to convey with that character to make it Justin Bartha is brilliant.
Yes.
It is so genius, dude.
Yeah.
The exact right tone of white guy.
I love
like where you're like, I kind of empathize and feel bad. I kind of don't. Like, he teeters on this perfect edge of just like, I don't know how I feel about this dude. And then ultimately you get to the end and you're like, yeah, this guy's going to be all right.
Yeah,
he seems all right.
He's fine.
He seems okay. And then did that final shot with fucking, is it Minnie Riperton?
Yes, Minnie Riperton. Yeah,
that's playing. Oh my God,
dude. My favorite thing is just when he goes back, he's like, I need to talk to you. What? He's like, I can't have someone like you, like, you know, to go. We're just doing a separation. We're gonna have to get divorced. Like, I can't have you as a risk to my finances.
Can't take the financial hit.
What? It's like, I'm 48% Persian. You were white yesterday.
The detail of the lamp that he asked about like a day prior, like, oh, can I take that over to my place or whatever? The fact that she shoved it in the dumpster when he's walking out, is so funny to me.
And then everybody, like, the one chick at work, 86% Ashkenazi Jew, baby. It's like,
you want my advice? pay as much money as you can.
Oh no, I love
apologize profusely. That's all you really can do.
I love the dude walking by, and it's like, I owned people. It's like, what's going on with him? Oh, the family that owned his family, like, that was owned by his family, they didn't really want money. They just wanted him to wear that shirt. He's got to wear it twice a week.
He's got to wear it 3 times a week, at least once on Sunday.
Yeah. He's got to wear it 3 days a week. One of them has to be Sunday. They, I think he got off kind of light. It's so good,
dude. But then all of that stuff hits. I love the gradual escalation of it. The fact that it doesn't it doesn't get too broad too quick. It just takes.
I love the one girl she's like, how can you be like, someone sitting Norwegian or Nordic or whatever, and the dude's laughing. She's like, what, Greg? This affects all of us. It's like,
no, it don't.
No, it don't. No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. He just walks off. They come in the next day. Where is everybody?
Dude, when he drives up to his apartment and you just hear Keith Sweat in the background, and they're all just hanging out.
There he is. Go get.
Oh my god.
So fucking perfect.
What I loved about it so much is it's like, it's a bit of the Get Out energy of like, no, what we're sad, what this is not the nightmare for white people. This is the nightmare for a very particular type of woke white person. It's like, how much are you really down for the cause, dude?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Because you're introduced, the dude's listening to fucking NPR. You're like, I know this dude's politics. I'm like, on paper, he's the least racist fucking person in his office.
He's Bradley Whitford from Get Out.
He'd vote for Obama
3 times.
Time.
Yes, he would have.
Exactly. That's 100% his energy.
Yeah.
And even to the point where it's like, you have the dude at work who's all worked up. He's like, shouldn't you be more excited about this? Like, it affects all of us, kind of thing. He's like, oh, it'll work itself out. That Twitter guy's rich, or Tesla guy's rich, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And then
the unknown folk calls start coming out.
The slow turn.
Burn, yes.
And then it's like, before you know it, it's like, he's calling the cops on a black woman who's in his house, and you're like, this is a little problematic. And you start to like go through it in your head, and it's like, no, this is targeted at a very particular type of mentality.
Yes.
And it's the specificity of it, and again, that goes down to the casting of Justin Bartha. I'm like, it's like, it's a whole onion of brilliance.
Yes.
It's so many layers deep that I'm just like, dude, I could watch that singular episode. Like, that immediately went in the pantheon. They're crushing it. I love everything about this season. But anyways, yes, it's hilarious. I'm having a great time with it. I'm like, I can't believe it, dude. This premise is great. And then he shows up at that hotel and has the conversation with White Earn. And I was just like, oh my God, dude. I was just like, show's on another fucking level. And then he blows his brains out. And I'm like,
is this reality? Is this another dream? Is this another? Yeah.
Yes. Oh God. Incredible television.
Because that literally, it could have ended with like any one of them waking up from a dream. And it would have been just as perfectly fine. It's like, okay, we're going to get a dream episode for each one, But that's my whole thing is I'm like, well, was it meant to establish, and the fact that we saw Earn in this one, that the White Earn in this one, that it is like any of the episodes that are not directly with our characters are the dreams of our characters, or these like just, Yeah, I had this crazy dream.
And sounds crazy, dude. I would be fine if they come back for season 4 and it is all standalone stories.
Yeah.
And maybe we only get one final episode with our characters.
Where it pulls them all together somehow. They're in each episode one bit.
Literally, I bow down. I am literally like, whatever you guys want to do or wherever you want to take this, I am down for the ride because I am fucking loving it. The quality of acting, visuals, writing, everything has not dimmed in the slightest in the 2.5 years break that we've taken.
Well, see, that's the thing I love is like the one episode, Ern wakes up and he's coughing, and I was like, oh, are we getting like he's sick?
I did,
and we're doing like
heard a lot of that on podcasts.
Is this possibly COVID?
Read a lot where it was like, oh shit, we're about to have a COVID arc, and the next episode it's like, no,
he's just groggy from the night before.
And again, I took that as just when I first saw it, I maybe had the COVID thought, but I was like, oh, it's that shitty feeling of like you're on tour, you're in a foreign country, you're traveling all over the place. and you're run down, and then on top of it you're dealing with all this bullshit, because that is a huge runner of the entire show, is like, no matter how good things are going for Earn, it's all momentary, and it all could collapse at any moment. And just when you think like, oh shit, he finally got his shit together and like he got a decent roll of money, and it's like, oh yeah, but he also is staying in a storage unit at the end of this season. Like,
right.
Just so you remember, this is where this guy's at right now.
Right.
Yeah. Long way from the storage unit.
At
this point. I can't wait to watch the next episode. Maybe that I'll do tonight, and I'll save everything else for another time.
Yeah.
Okay, it was great catching up on some TV with you. We will adjourn things for now. For this edition of the TV Arc on the Archivy Podcast, I've been Noah.
And I have been Gavin.
And we've been the Blanchard Brothers. And we'd just like to remind you that you opened your podcast apps. You read the episode description. You chose to stream and download it. I say,
let them listen.